Hey guys, it's TF. Now, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another action figure review. The last day here of week 1 of Anime Week on the channel. This is going to be of the Good Smile Company Figma Max Factory figure number 522, Zenitsu Agatsuma. I have no idea if I pronounced his last name right. Actually, I forgot how to pronounce it. But if I am being quite honest, even though I bought the figure, I really do not like this character that much. I think he's kind of annoying and kind of a creep, which is kind of the point of the character. Then why did you buy it? You probably are asking. But I wanted to build the rest of the team. I wanted to pre-order this from Good Smile's website and get the pre-order bonus. I did not want to shell out, sadly, that much for the super expensive version, the DX version, so I just got the standard version, which the DX version is going to be a more optimal version because of all the accessories it comes with. It's a pretty nice packaging you've been looking at here. I wanted to go through this really quick because this was released earlier this year, but it's been out for a little bit, so a lot of you probably are familiar with the box by now. A lot of people may not see reviews of the standard version, though, so just give me a look at the standard Figma box for this. Let's go ahead and get this figure out of the packaging. Okay, here's the Zenitsu figure out of the packaging. It shares a lot of similarities with the Tanjiro figure, of course. Some similar problems. There's some things about this figure in particular I might like a little bit more than Tanjiro. I don't really know if I like him more than Tanjiro. Let's get that out of the way. But this is still a pretty decent figure. I just got out of the box, so we're going to have to wait and see as time goes on with the review. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the accessories. At the very end of the accessory portion, we're going to take a look at that pre-order bonus. Then we're going to take a close look at the figure. Like with any imports figure, this figure comes with an instruction manual. One side is for English, the other side is for Japanese. It shows all the different accessories this figure comes with and how to use some of the different parts and how to use some of the different articulation parts as well. Basically, how not to break your figure. Other than that, we have some basics when it comes to the Figma line. A Figma baggie to keep all your stuff in. You can even write the name of the character on there if you wanted to. We also have an adjustable neck base that has a separate piece for the back plug there that's on an angle, and it can move in different parts with all those different joints on the base. It also says Figma on the base. We do have a separate additional wrist peg in case you break one. Other than that, here are all the accessories that the standard version of Zenitsu comes with. Doesn't seem like a lot, and I actually kind of agree, but it's pretty much everything you need besides the different effects pieces in the deluxe version. And then you can see the baggie with the pre-order bonus in there. Let's go ahead and move on to the face here. This is the closed eyes, thunder breathing face, which I think the printing on the eyebrows is the biggest part of this face. It looks really nice. The closed eyes look good, as well as the teeth are painted on there pretty well. The overall sculpting's pretty good. The detail in the ears, all that is pretty nice too. We also have, I have to turn the brightness down a little bit, I guess. Man, I have to keep turning the brightness down for this review. We do have the in distress crying face, which I'll admit this is pretty nice. The light blue on here is like, it looks like a different texture compared to the rest of the animated face, which I actually kind of dig that. The way that all the teardrops are flowing through, and it has really nice separation, as you can see, when it comes to the tongue and the rest of the mouth with the teeth. Those eyes and the blue paint that they're using when he's nervous, as well as the paint on the eyebrows, all that looks pretty good. I don't think there might be a tiny bit of paint splotching, but that looks like it works. Like there's parts where you can see the sculpt, and that's what's for the teardrop. Then you paint it on there, and I think a little bit's getting off it, but it still works. It's fine. It doesn't bother me that much. Sword. This one actually looks really sick. Let's focus back up. I love that detail in there. Look at that. Really clean paint. Like those thunderbolts, basically. The handle. All this looks really good. That metallic gold in here. You have really dark, a little bit like silver and like some dark silver and lighter silver. All that looks good. And the blade. And there's some lighter silver up here at the handle with some white and yellow. Dark gold towards the bottom. I like this little string piece. That looks great. You also have this one here. This is just you guys are probably familiar with how these work. There's a certain indent how this is shaped up here. It's like more pointier here, and then that's more squared off. And then you insert it like so. I really hope I don't break this. But the idea is you are inserting it in a certain way. Yikes. I don't know what's going on. I can't see too well, I guess. Oh, man. I kind of got it in there. But it's sheathed. You guys are familiar with that with the other Figma figures. A hand tree. Look at all these different hands here. We have sprawled out posed hands, relaxed hands, gripping sword hands, and then these are different posing hands when, I guess, getting ready to use one of his techniques. All these are looking pretty good. There's pretty standard paint apps for, you know, skin tones on here. There's not much paint variation. There's not much detail. I mean, there's decent detail. I mean, you can kind of see. I think there's some fingernails sculpted in there. Overall, I mean, I think they could be a little bit better when it comes to the sculpting, but they're hands, you know. They just need to look like hands, which they do. And there's not much detail on the inside of the hands. I guess we don't see their hands that often, too. But sometimes, like, SH Fig Arts have pretty detailed hands. That's the only reason why I bring it up. This hand tree, you can see it says Figma there. All these different ports are a little bit warped, but you just pop one out, and then you pop it back in. And then we have a separate hand here. This is a pointing hand. And I guess they didn't have enough room. They clearly didn't have enough room on that tree, so they just gave him this one here. And this is a wrist peg that is to prevent shrinking of the hole, which I didn't even know that is possible. So that's interesting. And this actually was a little difficult to pop out earlier, but pops out just fine now. Let's open up the pre-order bonus if you're not familiar with what the pre-order bonus is. So it's basically an incentive for, you know, ordering on Good Smile's website. They're a little bit more expensive over there, but like compared to like Amiami. But that's, you know, some of their figures they will give you a pre-order bonus. A lot of people keep these and will sell these off later and actually make a pretty decent penny, and I totally understand that. Since, you know, you can't get these after the pre-order, and the pre-orders will eventually close too. So, you know, sometimes it's if you really want the figure, and if the pre-order bonus is really worth it, there's always that, you know. So it's in a separate baggie, and I'm gonna have to cut this. Oh, actually, come on. All right, sorry, I had to cut away for a second. This is the Sparrow. This actually has really good white and brown paint, and as well as black around the face. This is very cute. This looks really cool. I don't know how this thing, if it could sit on his shoulders or anything. But this is cool that this is an option that you get for him. So this is the basic face that the figure comes with. A very, not as scared as that comedic face, but still a pretty timid face that he usually has. The eyes actually, and the paint in the eyes actually looks really good here. I like the, you know, the teeth paint, all of that's pretty clean as well. The hair's kind of covering it, but the eyebrows also have some nice printing. So the printing overall on the paint, pretty good. And I actually think the hair has some really good paint apps too. It's pretty clean. There's a plane going overhead. Hopefully it's not too loud. The variation of like the darker, like yellowish brown here, and then you get to that really bright yellow. Oh, that looks good. I don't see many splotches there. The seam line, the separation in the hair is a little distracting, unfortunately. So there's that. The rest of this, I don't think is... I can't tell you if it is reusing parts from Tanjiro. I'll have to bring him out later. I don't have him right now with me. It seemed like there's some new parts here because this is like an actual hinge of the articulation. I don't remember Tanjiro having a hinge like that. But we have some silver, these really large buttons in the chest here. And you have whatever this, you know, that white right there. The collar piece. And then you have his robe here. I don't remember if that's exactly what it's called. Well, if you're like, excuse me, it's called this and this, and I apologize if I messed it up. We do have really nice triangles printed all throughout this. I don't see really any mismatched paint. Maybe a little bit of blood. Actually, no, that was fur. Never mind. A little bit of some fuzz. So I don't see any paint splotches. They have something going on here with a paint app on the actual, on the actual joint. I didn't focus up for a second. So when you move that, it's going to break that up a little bit. I'm not doing the greatest job moving it. You can see where the back hole is. And you have a little bit of like the light yellow going on into like a darker brownish, orangish yellow. Not sure what the color exactly is, but it's the same going to all the way down here. It gets darker. So that's pretty cool. All the wrinkles too. And like the upper arms and then towards the lower arms looking really nice. Now the big thing, you know, the Antiplex, the Buzz Mod stuff, they have the actual soft goods, and these are a hard plastic sculpt, so that's a big turnoff for some people. I totally get that. The way it's sculpted here is a little... I don't know what they could have done, but sometimes it's just going to be posed outward kind of awkwardly, I feel like, in a certain way. It looks more natural when it's bent more 90. It looks like they excess fabric is actually falling downward. And then, of course, they put in some sculpting. You can see the black and white part of the uniform there. And you can see his fists, too. Let's maybe zoom in a little bit if I can. Those fists are pretty basic. You know, there's not much detailing going on here. And it's a very consistent skin tone with, like, the face. And it looks like the wrist peg, I think it's caught more on camera. It looks a little different, the colors, but in person it really doesn't look that different. We have this white belt looking really nice with some silver buckles. Silver painted buckles. Has some silver on the sheath. This end here with the gold actually looks really good, and the rest of this is like a white, painted plastic. Some of the paint's a little fragile, so I have to be careful. I already see a scuff on the inside. Oh god, I see a scuff on the inside there. That's a little annoying for how much you're paying for this. It was like 90, I think, maybe 80 or 90. So that's a little unfortunate. That's what the back looks like. You can see some of the sculpting in the the pants there, some of the wrinkles. And we get down to the legs. This is like a softer plastic piece, I think. Yeah, about the crotch piece. And then we have there's a little bit of wrinkles in that crotch piece too. And we have this wrinkles all the way down the legs. These really large pants. It's just this basic black paint going on here, like a protruding seam line. And we do have. I really like what they're doing with the boots from the shin guards with the white paint. It's a little bit of that brighter yellow going into like a brownish, darker yellow with the triangles print on here again. Oh, that looks nice. That's what the top of the feet look like with the sandals with the white paint as well as some black in there. You move this a little bit, it kind of breaks up that sculpt as you can see with the sandal. That's what the bottom of the feet look like. Actually, some really nice details towards the bottom of the feet, and that's what the back of the legs look like. Those exposed joints are a little ugly. I don't think they're all too bad. I forgot to mention some parts. This is all up here on the chest, a softer plastic piece, so when you have to move this here, it will kind of move with it. It kind of hinders that articulation. It kind of droops down, but not nearly as bad as one of the figures I reviewed recently, which was a Figma 2.0 Rider. Like her hair really doesn't want to stay up because the soft plastic on the hard plastic. That's not what's going on here. There's not much soft plastic getting in the way of this, so there's that. So overall, this is actually a pretty good looking figure. First off, before I start the articulation portion, because of how all this stuff is with the yellow outer outfit, it likes to make the arms stick out a little too much. It really can't. The arms can't go down all the way naturally, unfortunately. That's one thing to mention. We have this system here. If I could take it off really quick, you see that ball joint here, it's slightly angled, and there's that hinge, and there's the peg going into the neck. So it's pretty tight, that ball joint going into the hair. It can sort of pivot a little bit. The forward and back on the hinge isn't the greatest on mine. It swivels just fine, and you get that extra swivel and all that ball joint action at the neck going into the torso. You do have a little bit of some space. This feels a little too loose here, so that's actually kind of concerning. That's a little too loose for my liking. The arms actually go out pretty well, and there's a little bit of some space here because of the socket. So we can go a little bit forward and back. There's a bit of a thigh swivel. Arm swivel. Thigh swivel going on in here. That does not feel right to me. Something feels kind of a little too loose. Single joint elbow is hidden really well when you bend it all the way, and it gets a really good range of motion. It's not that well hidden here, unfortunately. There's a swivel at this part of the arm because of that outfit part, and there's the standard wrist pegs that can go in and out. You can swivel it around so it can go up and down too. I'm kind of struggling to do that right now. Actually, first of all, ab crunch here. So there's that. I don't remember if Tanjiro has that, but there's also a swivel here. And then there's a swivel at this separate part of the waist where it meets the belt. So it allows for all this different range of motion, but it's kind of hindered by these back pieces, which, again, they have articulation. They are on these slight ball joints that can pivot. They go forward, back. So they move, but, also the sword kind of gets in the way too. So there's a little bit of hindrance when they've engineered the articulation in here, sadly. Legs go forward and back. All that back motion was actually really cool. Forward like so. We have a little bit of splits. Upper thigh swivel is ever so slightly in there because of how it's sculpted. We have a little bit of a swivel here at the knee, but there's some double joints at the knee right here and right here, and it actually swivels at this point here. So there's a lot of swiveling, so that's pretty sick. We have a swivel at the ankle, up and down hinge, ankle rocker, as well as a toe hinge that bends actually really far. For quick size comparisons over on the far left and right, a Marvel Legends and Stars of Black series figure is going to be pretty tall compared to a figure that's usually right under the 6-inch scale, like Figma. You can see it in the middle, and on the right next to Zenitsu, that is Tanjiro. And I think Tanjiro is a tiny bit shorter. They're also not the exact same body mold. I thought they were reusing parts, but I don't think there's any reuse here, so that's pretty sick. But because of that, Zenitsu, I think, is just ever so slightly taller, if not the same height as Tanjiro. As you can see, SH Figure Arts Naruto is going to be a little bit taller. Overall, I do think this is actually a pretty good figure. I liked it a little bit more than I thought I was going to, because with some of the Figma Demon Slayer stuff and some other Figmas that I've gotten lately, they engineer all this articulation in here, all these different moving parts, but it just doesn't feel super fun to mess around with it. I know it's mostly put it in a particular pose every once in a while and keep it in that pose, but it still just does not. Just mostly the sculpting is really good. It's just a lot of it's really big, so you just can't get some poses out that you would like, and some of the joints just don't feel very. I'm just not confident moving this figure around. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to say. But it does allow for some articulation if you can kind of finagle it and take your time with it. All those different hands are pretty nice. I mean, again, this isn't the DX version. It's going to come with more effects pieces and I think an extra face in that version. The standard version here, there's not that much stuff. But for everything that you kind of need for, besides the effects pieces, for Zenitsu, you get it here in the standard version with the different faces, the swords, and with the pre-order bonus, that Sparrow is really cool. This figure is pretty pricey. I'll leave links down in the description below. If you want to get the standard version or DX version, I recommend going through Amiami. It's going to be a little bit cheaper over there, even with that shipping cost. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below what you think about the figure, what you think about the review. Leave a like, share amongst your friends. Follow me on Instagram for more content over there. I'll see you guys next time. Week 1 of Anime Week is done. Let's move on to Week 2.